Jerome. Geoslavery. Jerome Dobson and Peter F. Fisher. Copyright Artville. Geographic Information Systems Technologies, including location-based services continuously fed by Earth coordinate data streams derived from the Global Positioning System, recently have given rise to new consumer products advertised for tracking humans as well as animals. Heretofore, GIS has raised public concerns about information privacy, primarily due to its capacity for rapid integration of spatial information and personal information from diverse sources. Human tracking devices, however, introduce a new potential for real-time control that extends far beyond privacy and surveillance, per se. As a result, society must contemplate a new form of slavery characterized by location control. Geoslavery now looms as a real, immediate, and global threat. Commercial vendors of human tracking systems, naturally, tout benefits and diminish, dismiss, or deny any potential for abuse. Indeed, the benefits of pounds are myriad, and human tracking is not all bad. Mountaineers, for example, can have the assurance that, if they have an accident while climbing, one call will alert an emergency service and report almost precisely where they are. As with many other information technologies, however, there are trade-offs between physical security and personal safety, on the one hand, and privacy and personal freedom on the other. Hence, the countless benefits of pounds are countered by social hazards unparalleled in human history. Here we explore possibilities for misuse that many would consider unethical. Our principal objectives are to forewarn the public, foster debate, and propose remedies. We focus primarily on hazards, reasoning that benefits get more than their due from commercial advertising, while hazards are ignored by vendors and, all too often, by public officials, as well. We describe the technologies and cite current products to demonstrate that the dangers are real, not imaginary as some Big Brother bugaboos have been in the past. We illustrate the danger through realistic scenarios of potential enslavement applications. We advocate a rational response that acknowledges the benefits and inevitability of adoption along with an overwhelming need for safeguards. Finally, we propose a remedy that may prevent the most egregious abuses while, simultaneously, preserving most benefits. Definition. Geoslavery is defined here as a practice in which one entity, the master, coercively or surreptitiously monitors and exerts control over the physical location of another. Jerome Dobson is a research professor at the University of Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas. Email dobson@ku.edu. Peter Fisher is a professor of geographical information at the University of Leicester, United Kingdom. Email pff1@le.ac.uk. Individual, the slave. Inherent in this concept is the potential for a master to routinely control time, location, speed, and direction for each and every movement of the slave or, indeed, of many slaves simultaneously. Enhanced surveillance and control may be attained through complementary monitoring of functional indicators such as body temperature, heart rate, and perspiration. It is possible to monitor people and exert behavioral control manually, as slave masters have done for centuries, or visually, as George Orwell imagined in 1984. The key to widespread adoption, universal coverage, and exceptional precision, today, lies in recent advances of electronic information systems. Human tracking systems, currently sold commercially without restriction, already empower those who would be masters, and safeguards have not yet evolved to protect those destined to become slaves. Current products freely exploit the GPS and other digital information offered as a public good, but no government has yet established any specific statutes or regulations restricting their use. Technology. 3 current technologies can be combined to enable one person to monitor and control the actions of one or many other individuals. A miniature GPS receiver implanted in or attached to a person can continuously record that person's location. A miniature radio transmitter can report that person's location to anyone else with a radio receiver tuned to the proper frequency. A GIS can accept the continuous stream of incoming geo-coordinates and plot the person's every movement in real time. The GIS can readily relate these individual movements to streets, roads, and buildings and to the movements of other individuals. Anyone operating the GIS can follow these movements in real time or retrospectively for as long as data are retained. Inexpensive human tracking systems that combine these three technologies are now commercially available and widely marketed. Individual units currently sell for less than $300. In addition to geolocation through GPS, mobile phones already are capable of providing location information of variable precision depending on the density of transmitters. Indeed, the next generation of mobile phones will be far more accurate due to enhanced observed time difference as part of the G3 standard, or will be linked to GPS. In the United Kingdom, location information from the current generation of mobile phones has achieved prominence in a recent high-profile criminal case. When the accused in the Damilola Taylor murder trial were acquitted partly on the telling evidence that mobile phones associated with them were used 4 miles away within 3 minutes of the report of the murder. The Crown Prosecution Service seems to have been unprepared for this defense, and offered no refutation or contrary arguments. This evidence was available from completely standard mobile phones of the current generation. Employed coercively or surreptitiously, Pound's products clearly constitute an invasion of privacy, employing surveillance technologies well beyond those envisioned in 1984. As Orwell warned, however, surveillance can confer control. Anyone monitoring the tracking system can exert control over the person being tracked by reprimanding or otherwise punishing the person in near real time or retrospectively at the end of each day, week, or year. Only one other technology is necessary to enforce real-time control. Simply add a transponder that receives a radio command from the master and instantaneously shocks, stings, burns, or otherwise punishes the slave. The technical feasibility of two-way pounds has been proven. One human tracking device comes with a remote control lock, and another commercial product comes with a GPS receiver and two-way radio combined in a single handheld unit. Thus, the master could prescribe a path in the GIS. The slave's spatial location could be transmitted continuously to the GIS, and software could be set to recognize any instance in which the slave's coordinates depart from the prescribed path. If the slave were to transgress, a command could be transmitted instantaneously to the transponder, which would administer punishment. The result would be an electronic form of geoslavery, equivalent to a human robot. To our knowledge, no human-oriented product currently takes this fateful step, but a human version would pose no greater technical challenge than those of similar systems used on animals today. This scenario is particularly chilling in the light of the news that rats have been trained to be remotely controlled for navigating mazes and other location-based activities. The control is achieved by direct electronic stimulation of the brain. Society must contemplate a new form of slavery, characterized by location control. From up to 500 meters, linking this to a GIS with a digital map of the maze and GPS location information is almost trivial, technically. Current commercial products currently for sale can be used to enforce almost any spatial or temporal constraint that the master is willing to impose on the slave. A master can prescribe a route and force a slave to follow it to a precision measured in centimeters, or a master may grant a slave free rein except for certain areas defined as taboo. Or, a master may limit a slave's visits to specified places, times, and durations. Or, a master may prohibit intersections between a slave's track and that of any other specified slave or group of slaves. Some current products that offer the ability to monitor the positions of people or vehicles are shown in Table I. Although not the stated intention of these vendors, it is quite possible for an abusive husband, for example, to purchase an inexpensive device or service that will enable him to follow his wife's every step, monitor her daily travels, report her whereabouts, identify whether she visits a specified friend, and time her stay on any given visit. If she still loves him after all this, she cannot purchase his birthday gift without revealing which shop or shops she visited. Such systems are already in use to incarcerate convicted criminals in Britain, and the U.S. prisoners are allowed to be in certain places at certain times, and not to range outside a prescribed polygon. These people have been found guilty in a recognized judicial system and are having their liberty curtailed as part of the criminal justice system. Others, however, may be subject to the same technology without due process. Human rights. Geoslavery is a global human rights issue. In the United States, United Kingdom, and other countries with long traditions of personal freedom, the most severe abuses may be avoided through cultural constraints and future legislation. In most of the world, however, abuses will be inevitable. In some countries, geoslavery may be the principal pound's use and will spell the end of any semblance of freedom. Traditional societies, especially, will face threats from inside and out. Lacking technical know-how and capital of their own, indigenous peoples may face intrusive threats from unscrupulous outsiders who coerce or trick them into geoslavery. Glittering bracelet-style tracking devices may be given freely or sold at far below actual cost. Once deployed, the devices can be used in any number of ways to enslave laborers and extract a financial return. Forced laborers on plantations, for example, may never be able to hide or escape their bondage, giving a new means for unscrupulous masters to abuse workers. Child slaves may be forced to beg or steal on specified streets for specified hours with no chance of hiding away for a little rest, much less escaping for good. Sex slaves may be confined to brothels, street corners, and specified trysts with little possibility of seeking other employment or escaping to their home villages. Recognized as a new form of slavery, geoslavery will contravene Article 4 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights passed as Resolution 217A of the 10th of December 1948. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. Real-time punishment via transponders may be considered as cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment, and thus contrary to Article 5. Table ISM current commercial products. Digital Angel. http www.digitalangel.net. A wristband to be locked to the individual, enabling tracking of all movements, marked for use with children and senior citizens. Verify. http www.verifywireless.com Corporation Home. Marketing devices for monitoring wireless locations of vehicles, children, or senior citizens. Travel Eyes. http www.travelies.com. Vehicle tracking system for fleet management and tax-deductible mileage calculation. Dance within the borders of each state. The same restrictions are not specifically stated in the Declaration of the Rights of the Child passed as Resolution 1386 of the 20th of November 1959, but are implied in many parts. When public concerns become acute, existing laws in many nations and states may be extended to cover certain aspects of geoslavery. For example, laws against stalking conceivably can be interpreted to address electronic tracking, and laws against human branding can be interpreted to address the implantation of tracking devices. Women's rights. Geoslavery is, perhaps first and foremost, a women's rights issue. To illustrate, consider the ultimate sanction used to control women in certain cultures. Honor murders occur when a father, brother, or husband kills a female family member accused of disgracing the family. Often the issue is location as well as behavior. One honor murder case currently galvanizing the international women's movement is the death of a teenage girl, Sdagok, whose family held a council and voted to execute her in violation of their own country's laws. http www. 1996 HRP report turkey.html. A young cousin was assigned to kill her, and he did so by slitting her throat in the middle of a street while other family members restrained her. How did Sdagok disgrace her family? She went to a movie without permission. No tracking device was employed in her case, but surely any culture that exerts such extreme location control over its youth will feel no compunction against electronic geoslavery. If the devices aren't widely adopted, it will be due to other factors such as cost or technical complexity. Of course, with positional accuracies of GPS and digital maps being as they are, some girls may die for pausing near a movie or a sweetheart's home rather than actually going inside. Soon, an enterprising businessman in Sdagok's village may be able to purchase a central monitoring system for less than $2,000 and individual tracking devices for less than $100 per unit, which can be locked onto the wrists of every member of the village. Most likely, he will be able to offer a service to village parents at an affordable price that will cover his investment and a tidy profit. If, say, 100 families sign up and capital equipment is amortized over 10 years, the cost to each family may be somewhat less than 1% of the median family income in that country. Further information on honor killings can be found on the Amnesty International website. PL2BTDRGZAKOPTUMGOK. Social responsibility technology per se is neither good nor evil, and it certainly cannot be held responsible for the sins of society. But technology can empower those who choose to engage in good or bad behavior. In this case, pounds will support and amplify some of the more extreme tendencies of human nature. Parents who choose to protect their children through surveillance and location control now may do so in the extreme. Tyrants who choose to dominate their subjects, husbands and wives who choose to dominate their spouses, and employers who choose to dominate their employees now may do so in the extreme. Many of these choices will be considered legitimate in one culture and not in another. Of course, may change over time. In 1967, for example, during early development of GIS to support computerization of the 1970 census, a Yale University administrator declared the efforts a threat to individual privacy and closed the project's computer accounts. Yet, far more invasive measures, such as citywide video surveillance, are routinely tolerated today. Surely, the current generation of children growing up with video cameras on their school buses will view surveillance differently than their predecessors. Wars traditionally tilt the balance in favor of sacrificing personal freedom for the sake of public safety and security. In the current war on terrorism, strong positions have been expressed on both sides regarding increased U.S. government access to information about personal transactions following the terrorist attack of September 11, 2001. In the climate of fear that currently exists around the globe, one might readily imagine the citizens of any nation demanding that all suspicious foreigners be tagged with human tracking devices for the duration of their stay. Or, they might take it further and demand that all foreigners be tagged. Or, they might include their fellow citizens as well. Who knows how far hysteria may take us? We, as geographers, are acutely aware of cultural diversity around the globe and changes within each culture over time. We do suggest, however, that certain shared values are nearly universal. Over the past 2 centuries, the vast majority of nations have agreed that slavery is wrong, and slavery is prohibited, accordingly, by most nations and by the international conventions cited above. Developers, marketers, and sellers of pounds technology have a professional responsibility to familiarize themselves with likely outcomes and with the laws and norms that may apply. They have a social responsibility to recuse themselves from any development or application that overtly and directly aims to enslave individuals who have committed no crime and pose no threat to the safety and security of others. Geoslavery versus Big Brother. In one sense, geoslavery is the ultimate fulfillment of George Orwell's Big Brother nightmare, but geoslavery differs in two major ways from what he imagined in 1984. First, Pounds makes Orwell's television-based surveillance technology look amateurish. His technology relied on human observers watching other human subjects and initiating actions to control their behavior. Being digital, Pounds can be programmed so that it watches each and every subject, evaluates myriad pathways based on models or sets of rules, and automatically issues instructions and punishments. With his visual system, one human observer might reasonably monitor 20 or at most, say, 50 other humans. With Pounds, one human operator could monitor 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000 fellow humans, and yet know if any one of them steps off the path by more than a few centimeters. Second, Orwell's warning was that governments someday may use technology to control individuals. Governments may employ geoslavery as well, but our principal warning is that individuals can use current technology to control other individuals or groups of individuals. The institution of slavery again serves as a sobering example. Throughout history, the vast majority of slaves were owned, not by governments, but by individuals. A rational response. Pounds technology is the quintessential double-edged sword. Hardware and software for monitoring. Vehicle fleets are sold, for the best of reasons, to reduce costs and improve efficiency. New issues are raised, however, if those same vehicles are monitored outside of work hours when used for private activities. Caring parents may use Pounds solely to protect their children, but domineering parents may do so to exert obsessive control even into adulthood.
Okay, as I try out these different software programs, some will read through the documents and some will not complete them. So far, so good. Naturalreaders.com is the best. If you want to continue through with citing this article from 2003, think about that. That's 19 years ago now. It's going to be in the description box below. This is actual evidence written by professors and site sourced. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and it proves that transponders are involved in the weapon system used on targeted individuals.